Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about the idea of appreciating your work. And I know that kind of sounds basic on the high level kind of glance at it, but I think that there's a lot to be said about enjoying the work that you do, not only from the process standpoint, but from the output standpoint. And I talk a lot about how after something is released, it's no longer quote unquote yours. And I think that still stands, but I still think that there's a lot of value in understanding or basically just coming to terms with the quality of your work and being okay with it. So one example is if you like your work, you'll talk about it. And I think that you need to talk about your work in order to properly market yourself. So, for example, if you didn't like your work, if you made something and you just weren't confident in it, and I have definitely been there myself, where I've done like a 2-hour track challenge or I've released something, I was just like, yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't where I wanted it to be. I didn't talk about it as much. I didn't try to push it out there as much. I wasn't as, I guess for lack of a better word, I wasn't as proud of it. And that isn't great overall because that kind of, that work that you put into it doesn't really come to fruition when it comes to getting it out there and getting people to experience it. Because I've also found in my experience that if I don't like something personally, that has no bearing on whether or not somebody else will like it. Some of my kind of not least favorite 2-hour track challenges, but some of my less than okay challenges like have been really well received by people. And I mean, I have the metrics on Spotify to prove that. And it's just one of those things where it's very easy to get into that mindset where it's like, well, if I don't like it, well, how could anybody else like it? But it's entirely possible for that to happen. And I feel that just appreciating your work and kind of understanding and being okay with the time you put into it can do a lot of really good things for you in the long run. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I wanted to talk about this because it's something that's very hard to kind of come to terms with sometimes, because you make something and you either like it or you don't. And that judgment kind of goes out to your fan base as well, because you feel that, well, if I don't like this, then how could other people like this? And it's not necessarily how it goes. And I think that appreciating your work on any level is important, and it allows you to better kind of market yourself, and it allows you to, even beyond marketing, it just allows you to be a better and more well-rounded artist as well, because it gives you that feeling that, you know, I did okay here. It's not my best, but I did okay. And I think that there's a lot to be said about just kind of appreciating your own work on a holistic level and understanding that, you know, you did your best. I was talking about the 4 agreements with one of my friends the other day, and I think that if you're not familiar, it's a very good book. It's not very long, but it's essentially just a couple verbal contracts you make with yourself, and one of them is always do your best. And I love that quote because it's very specific that your best varies day to day or hour to hour, depending on your circumstances. So always do your best. Don't half-ass it. I mean, obviously, but don't overdo it either. Just try to do your best every day and be happy with that, because there's a lot to be happy about there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say there. Just appreciate the work that you do, and always do the best that you can. And you know, that's pretty good. So thank you again for listening, and thank you again for being a Patreon supporter. I do genuinely really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.